Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I'm back again today doing another video, and the subject of today's video is going to be on how the Oklahoma City Thunder really should have been the 2018 NBA champions and how it could have happened. So to review or to basically clarify what I mean by this statement, I'm going to explain today how this Thunder team, if they would have made a few different decisions, they could basically be the ones who are hoisting the banner in 2018 instead of the Warriors. So the start of this journey comes in 2016 when the Thunder were playing the Warriors in the playoffs. Basically, a lot of people started commenting on the fact that Russell Westbrook was taking a lot more shots than Durant in a lot of the games, and he was kind of the one who was taking charge, and it was sort of a your turn, my turn system where Russell Westbrook would basically do ISOs, then Durant would, then Russell would, then Durant would, and it was basically not a very good system, and the offense was stagnant, and just a lot of stuff like that, and that they didn't think that really Westbrook and Durant were meshing very well together anymore. Westbrook was getting a little too big-headed about how good of a player he was, and the team itself just wasn't playing as well as they could. But then they got up 3-1 against the Warriors, and everybody kind of forgot about that, and they said, okay, this team has two of the probably top five players in the NBA right now, and they are going to win this series, go on to the finals, and then battle with the Heat or Cavaliers, excuse me, and possibly win it all. But then these issues crept up again, where Westbrook was taking too many shots, and Durant actually was missing a lot of key shots during this playoff series in games 5 through 7, and the Warriors came back and won it in a 7-game series. At that point, then, in the offseason, the attention of people turned to where Kevin Durant would choose to go. He was a free agent, and if you don't remember, most people did think that Durant would stay with OKC. I would say probably there was like a 90% chance he'd go to OKC, and then people thought like maybe there's like a 10% chance he leaves and like goes to the Warriors or something like that. But I think by and large, most people thought for sure Durant is going to stay with the Thunder. And I think what ultimately drove him away was that whole thing of Russell being a little too ball dominant and Durant wanting to have it be a little more of a free flowing. Everyone shares the ball, everyone has fun. Which, yeah, I just don't think he was having fun in OKC anymore. But I think OKC definitely could have made a certain pitch to Durant where he would have been enticed to stay. So if OKC would have made it clear, look, Kevin, we want the offense to flow through you first, Russell Westbrook second. We want there to be a defined pecking order. Westbrook's going to fall in line, and he's going to realize that he should be passing the ball more often, and things along those lines. I think that Durant would have been more inclined to stay with the team and would have been more inclined to want to give it another try and win a title in OKC, which is a city that really loved him and he really liked being there. So I think if they would have just made a better pitch, I think their pitch was basically like, "Stay, Kevin." And so from that perspective, there just was nothing that they could really offer him, and I don't think that they did. But I think you could frame an argument in a certain way, or sort of a pitch in a certain way to get him to stay, and tell him that things aren't going to be status quo, things are going to change and get better. I think in that case he would have been more willing to come back to Oklahoma City instead of leave for Golden State. So let's just assume Kevin Durant stays, just for this hypothetical scenario. I think then we have to next look at, okay, I think they actually, before Durant did leave for sure, they already had pulled off the Serge Ibaka trade, sending him to the Magic in exchange for Victor Oladipo in the 13th pick. As most people probably know, the 13th pick became Domantas Sabonis, who has turned into a very good player right now, but when he was on the Thunder, he was a pretty average player, honestly, like a backup power forward. And then you had Victor Oladipo, who was good at that point for around 17 points per game on like 44% shooting, not great efficiency. And so you got a decent haul for him back, but so your starting lineup at this point for the 2016 to 17 season, starting lineup and bench looked like Westbrook, Oladipo, Durant, then probably Sabonis and uh, Steven Adams, with a primary bench of Andre Roberson and probably or Enes Kanter too as well. I'm forgetting about him. Or you could have Roberson starting and Victor Oladipo sort of playing a six-man role because he could come in at point guard or at shooting guard. But either way, those are going to be their main seven guys. I think that this team would have been good, probably would have gotten to the Western Conference second round. So um, I think again they would have had the seeding probably would have been Warriors 1, Spurs 2, Thunder 3, and Rockets 4. And so the Rockets probably lose to the Warriors instead of the Spurs in the second round. And then Spurs Thunder, I think the Thunder probably would have actually gotten past the Spurs again. But I think that the Thunder would have lost to the Warriors again in the Western Conference Finals, I think most likely. Um, in that they got Oladipo, but he still isn't good enough. He still isn't better than Serge Ibaka to enough of a degree to make them that much more overwhelmingly better. So I think that they still lose probably like 4-2 in that series. Um, but then the next offseason is the offseason where, if you remember, the Thunder traded Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis for Paul George. So let's say that this still happens. They also traded Enes Kanter straight up for Carmelo this season, I believe, as well. So let's assume that the Paul George trade still happens. You get Paul George and OKC, Sabonis and Oladipo still end up leaving for the Pacers, and so your starting lineup at this point looks like Westbrook. Okay, and then also real quick, let's assume that Enes Kanter stays and they don't trade for Carmelo Anthony to complete a big three. Your starting lineup looks like Westbrook at the 1, Paul George at the 2, Durant at the 3, probably Patrick Patterson at the 4, unless they want Enes Kanter to start at the 4, even though he's bad on defense, and then Steven Adams at the 5 with Andre Roberson coming off the bench, and then as the other main bench guy, you're going to have whoever doesn't start between Patrick Patterson and Enes Kanter. And now that team for 2017 to 18, I think that they would have definitely been able to beat the Warriors. Because you have to remember, at this point, the Warriors still wouldn't have Durant. And so I think that they would have been tired from going to the finals 3 straight years between 15, 16, and 17. And so I think in 2018, the Thunder finally would have been able to break through. Everybody was healthy that year. In 2016 to 17, Durant missed about 25 games, I think. But in 2017 to 18, Westbrook, Paul George, Kevin Durant, they were all healthy. So was Enes Kanter and Steven Adams. And I think that they would have had the team. Now, when you look at their matchup with the Warriors, I would say that you could argue like Steph and Westbrook, that's kind of a wash. And then you could argue that Paul George and Klay Thompson, that's sort of a wash. But then who would really guard Durant? Like, I don't know if Draymond Green would be fast enough to really guard him properly, and definitely not tall enough considering Durant's a 7-footer and Draymond Green is 6'7". So I think that the OKC would have definitely had an advantage there. I think this is not to say that the Warriors might not have brought in somebody else big. You know, that same offseason, there was other free agents like Gordon Hayward and Blake Griffin on the market, so the Warriors could have brought in one of those guys, but I still don't think they would have been as good as they are now with Kevin Durant. And so I just think as far as matchups go and stuff like that, they just wouldn't have anybody to guard Durant. Steven Adams would be tougher than whoever they got at center, most likely, and then Enes Kanter would be a good punch of offense off the bench. And I just think that that Thunder team would be super stacked and really hard to guard. And so from that perspective, I think they would get out of the Western Conference beating the Warriors probably in 6 games or 7. And then I think you see them matching up with the Cavs without Kyrie because he would have already gone to Boston in 2018. And I think it's probably a similar result, like a sweep or a 4-1 series. And I think we would have Russell Westbrook as an NBA champ, Paul George as an NBA champ, and Kevin Durant as a one-time NBA champ. But I think people would perceive it as meaning a lot more because he stayed in one place and they acquired players and he was the leader because he was the best player on the team. So that's all I got for today, guys. Just a quick analysis of how things could have gone a lot differently if the Thunder would not have let Kevin Durant walk like they did. Of course, this is all hypothetical, so it doesn't really mean that much, but I just found it interesting and wanted to talk about it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave your comments below if you have something to say regarding this, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.